Remember the old teachings that they say that everything began with the mineral world, and then after that came the plant world, then after that came the animal world, and after that the human world began. So when you and I, we die tomorrow, the animal world will eat us. And when they die, they will be eaten by the plant world. And when they die, they will be eaten by the mineral world. And thus life has no beginning, no ending.
Everyone can be perceptive, provided everyone wishes to perceive.
A division between the natural
Often
species and us that means that we can see ourselves as being fundamentally apart from
perception
the problem is, unfortunately, I think a lot of people do
is clouded
see themselves
because we see them,
That's why I think
we see our needs,
for people campaigning
we see our selfish interests
to build a movement that's large enough to
in a short-term perspective.
encourage governments or persuade, pressurize governments to act much
In our
to deal with the ecological crisis that we have.
attempt to
People, I think, particularly in the developed
keep meeting increasing
prowess in developing countries,
consumption needs,
insulating themselves from anything that could happen
for a moment we fail to think,
environmental terms. They built
what is that we have inherited
homes that
from our past generation, and what is that
very safe.
we are leaving behind
It's a false
for our children and grandchildren.
ultimately there's no
It is also a way of thinking.
immunize ourselves.
You can be selfish, but can you be enlightened?
Like climate change,
That is the question that one has to ponder at.
Truth, I think, that is of the utmost importance that I find in the collective global wisdom, and it is how we use our consciousness, that we make ourselves and make our world and our living reality with how we use our consciousness, the technology of our consciousness. And one of the great truths I've found from our great teachers is when we use our consciousness in an egocentric pattern, and that's the technology that we use, our life is determined by that. And it is a tragic life because it separates us from ourselves, it separates us from connectivity, it separates us from fulfillment, from genuine meaning, from truly being who we are. It separates us from ourselves.
If you just look at the sky above us, that's all it takes to see that we are living in nature. Our economy does not encompass the biosphere. And we are behaving as if it did.
Economic growth depends on the use of natural resources. If natural resources are limited, of course there will be limits to the growth.
The human economy sits inside the natural ecology.
So few people even get that when you say unsustainable, that at some point it fails.
We've collapsed major fisheries that once thought to be infinitely sustainable. We've seen the same thing with a massive loss of wetlands, of mangroves, of grasslands, of peatlands, of arable soils. We are continuing to lose 300 million tons of soil a year. These are cumulative effects, some of them collapsing systems that are become irreversible, never recoverable.
And we have to recognize that we're living in a moment of the Holocaust of the animals.
If they cut one tree, they should plant 10 trees.
En mi pueblo, en mi comunidad, en la medida que nosotros destruimos la naturaleza, también nos estamos destruyendo a nosotros mismos.
In the highly developed world, as we call it, there's a huge amount of waste. Look at our production. We make a lot of things out of hydrocarbons, out of the fossil fuels that were buried in the earth. They were buried for good reason. We're not supposed to be digging them up and polluting the atmosphere and causing global warming with them.
It is impossible, as Gandhiji said, for humankind to satisfy its greed, because greed is something which never says no. But this Mother Earth, the Mother Nature, can meet all our needs. But we need to look at it from a simple perspective of what if I have no water left, I have no clean air left. Can I exist? For a moment, if we ponder like this, then we will not be doing what we are doing the way we are doing. That's how I look at it.
Our shared responsibility for and acting on the sense of urgency that should exist.
But there are many ways for us to grow. We can grow new technologies. We can grow cooperation with each other. We can grow in our inventiveness. We can grow in our caring and our ways of sharing on this planet. We can develop lifestyles of what I call elegant simplicity. Let's only make things that are lasting and beautiful. We don't need closets full of junk.
And this is where the notion of circular economics come in. That if you regard the economic system as though it's an organism, then you organize it very differently, maximize internal input, minimize waste.
Maybe a first concrete step will be to change our whole economic paradigm, where natural capital was not taken into account as most of the most valuable asset, nor its depreciation. This would force us to think or to better analyze what are we doing in terms of our economic approach to the use of natural resources.
We can't be presumptuous to think that we are going to help and protect the nature. Nature doesn't need our help and protection. Nature will get rid of us anytime she wants to do it. Nature wants to try to sleep outside one night of snow, the moment you are dead.
Aujourd'hui, nos mégapoles, la civilisation urbaine nous a tellement éloignés de cette intimité avec les beautés de la nature et avec ses vibrations, avec les êtres vivants de la nature dans leur ensemble.
Like termite hives, like beehives, cities have grown up in a way that they change behavior. I haven't walked barefoot down a concrete street. I barely have walked in grass in an urban context.
I was on an island, tiny island off of Wellington, New Zealand, and they had a project there to restore the island to its natural indigenous habitat. I was talking to the ranger there, and he said, we're in the 5th year of a 100-year project. And I thought to myself, where else on earth are people planning 100 years in advance?
Vielleicht ist es auch noch ganz interessant, darüber nachzudenken, dass wir die Umwelt nicht von unseren Eltern erben oder nicht nur von unseren Eltern erben, sondern wir leihen sie von unseren Kindern und müssten eben auch darüber nachdenken, dass wir hier längerfristig denken müssen. Und das ist übrigens eigentlich auch eine Stärke aller Religionen, dass sie im Grunde genommen viel Erfahrung mit langfristigem Denken beisteuern können.
I think it's a moral imperative and a universal responsibility on the part of each person who claims to be spiritual or religious that we wrestle with what it means to care for creation. It's not an easy issue, and yet it's not one to be ignored or willfully dismissed because it's not easy to wrestle with.
Didn't it say someplace in the Bible that God created the world and then looked at it and then said that it was good?
The religion of my goddess is reflected in every corner of the world, in every leaf, in every speck of dirt, in every flower. It is the diversity of that religion that makes it such a beautiful religion. It speaks different languages. It is reflected in different books. It is reflected in the different colors. It is reflected in the sunsets and the sunrise. It is reflected in the beauty of the moon.
When I sit in Japan and I watch the cycling of seasons, and especially on the autumn days in mid-November, travel out and see these blazing, cloudless, radiant blue skies set against trees that are losing all their leaves and the imminence of dark and the coming of the cold. And that I think that mix of everything passing away and yet everything circling back seems to me to touch something very essential in the human heart and, of course, in the rhythms of the earth.
Global consciousness, global spirituality, which is global wisdom of the ages, of recognizing our integral connection with each other and with the entire human family and with the planet Earth. That consciousness is the most powerful single act of spiritual activism to change the trends that are leading to this dangerous tipping point that we're facing. So really it's a shift, a mass shift in consciousness that's going to be the key, the most powerful thing that can be done to change this mega trend and runaway situation that's now reached such a dangerous point on the planet.
Did you hear my answer?
This moment of pleasure, it's okay.
To admit you know nothing.
Dropping.
Because the fact that you love, it means that you know that you need to love.
That's right.
So you know.